It's Sports by the Book at the South Point Studio. Here's Jeff Parles.
Welcome in. Christmas Eve, everyone. I'm Jeff Parles, Alex White. Alongside, we are thrilled to be with you here the day before Christmas. Alex, good morning.
Good morning.
We are off tomorrow. Just want to at least kick it off with that. So if you're looking for us tomorrow, you won't see us. We'll get through all the games here in the next hour, getting you ready for week 16 in the National Football League. And Alex, you know what? Let's dive right in with the Indianapolis Colts and the Atlanta Falcons. Both of us have had enough of the Falcons. Let's just be real on that. Taylor Heineke gets the start for Atlanta here today on Christmas Eve. So this has been a weird week injury-wise for Indianapolis. Michael Pittman got cleared through concussion protocol, and then the word I heard yesterday was, quote-unquote, relapsing in concussion protocol, which probably means he never should have been cleared in concussion protocol. That's all that means. So he is out today. But finally, we got the 3 last night. Now, finally, this morning, the Colt money has showed. Down back to 2.5, Atlanta laying it. This game opened Indy -2.
Right.
Now Atlanta -2. As I joked with Chris on Friday, there's usually the wise guy union doesn't exist, but it feels like the wise guy union exists on this game and this game only this week, even though that's not the case anymore with this morning on one game that we'll get to in a little bit. But Alex, I think we're in the same camp, at least on the side, but you've been betting Colts overs all year. Are you going back to the well here again today?
Of course, you know it, Jeff. 4 straight overs for the Colts. I mean, Minshew's done just enough for this team to keep them in it and to help us get that over. And then the 3 games we saw Heineke in, that was an average total of 53 points. So I'm expecting points from both sides here. I mean, the Falcons do need another spark. I understand the move with bringing Heineke back in. But you know what's going to happen, Jeff. You know the Falcons are going to win this game, and neither of us will have a bet on it. But over 44.5 is the bet for me today on this one.
You know, it's an interesting game for a lot of circumstances. If we look at the standings real quick in the AFC South, and this will be the same theme today, all these teams, we thought this was going to be one of the, if not the worst division in football, the worst division in the AFC. And here you are with only Tennessee. Tennessee's done. They're eliminated. Their loss last week knocked them out. Looks like Ryan Tannehill is going to start today for the Titans. We'll get to that game in a little bit against Seattle. But look at that. 8-6, 8-6, 8-6. Jacksonville, who we'll get to later, looks like they will have Trevor Lawrence today, has let everyone back into this race. And for Indianapolis, Alex, where this was we'll get to Houston in a little bit, but Indianapolis, 6.5 win total. I thought, all right, if everything goes right, they get to 7, and that would be if everything goes right. And here they are with 3 games to go. Short dog today. They'll be favored next week against the Raiders. I feel confident in that, despite the wildness and the movement today in the line. And then Houston, the final week, flip game, coin flip. They beat Houston up in week 2. Granted, both those teams look very different today than they did in week 2. I'll just flat out ask you here. Who do you think is going to win this division here? Of course, Jacksonville in most markets that have divisions up. Jacksonville, you're still laying a price, but this was close to $8, $9 just a few weeks ago.
Well, it looks like Jacksonville does have a pretty easy schedule from here on out, so I think they can get it done. But right now, as of today, the Colts are the most complete team. I mean, we also had a couple suspensions, right, with that team. So we'll see. Yeah, we'll see how
that shouldn't impact that much.
How they play today, yeah. But I mean, you got to give them credit. Anthony Richardson looked really good for them, and they had high hopes. And then Gardner Minshew comes in and just keeps them rolling. So definitely between those 2 teams for me right now. But we'll see what Case Keenum can do for the Texans as well. So it's a very interesting division, this one.
Still laying $1.50 right now on Jacksonville. That's the price right now you're laying. Plus 280 on Indianapolis, plus 350 on Houston. That's about consensus right now for the places that have the division odds up. Atlanta's still alive in the NFC South, as we know. Tampa leading that division by a game over Atlanta, a half game with the game pending today for the Bucs over the Saints. Let's go to this one here. Green Bay on the road in Charlotte to take on the Carolina Panthers. Panthers red hot, 1 straight win with no touchdowns last week, 9-7 over the Falcons. Green Bay, Alex, you know what? This is the one thing that you have to be careful with reacting a little too hard to a few good results where Green Bay they beat back-to-back division champions, Detroit and Kansas City, 2 straight weeks. And now here they are, losing to Tommy DeVito and the Giants on Monday night. And then Baker Mayfield went off, only perfect passer rating by a road quarterback in Lambeau history last week. And now they go on the road to Carolina. And folks are betting the Panthers this morning. Chris and company have the only 4 remaining in the market now. It's 3.5 across the board. Total's all over the joint here. As high as 39.5, as low as 38. I have nothing in this game, but it is a little bit interesting to see the market come in on Carolina this morning. We knew Christian Watson wasn't going to play. He's out again. But still a little bit surprising to see the market come in as aggressively on Carolina with how that team has looked all year.
I kind of agree with it, though. I was looking at the 4.5 with the Panthers early this week, and I didn't jump on it because I don't know which Packers team we're going to get. I feel like they play to the level of their competition. We saw that when they beat the Chiefs and they beat the Chargers, and then kind of slowed down there against the Giants. And, of course, last week it wasn't even really competitive against Tampa Bay. So it really just depends on the Packers here and who shows up and what Jordan Love we get. But I didn't make the move yet. I also agree with the over, too. I think we're going to see some points in this one.
39. That's up 3 points from the opener today. Weather in Charlotte, just making sure my notes are right. They are, because it's at 65 degrees. And yes, we know better climate in Charlotte, but that's still pretty high for the day before Christmas. By the way, that's going to be the theme for weather today. Unseasonably warm temperatures in places you wouldn't expect it. Granted, we have not quite a fog bowl from the past, but a bunch of fog in Chicago coming later today. All right, let's go to Cleveland and Houston here, Alex. The Browns, 3-point favorites in this one with a total of 40. No C.J. Stroud yet. Again, he's not quite ready, but DeMeco Ryans earlier today saying he's making progress in concussion protocol, which gives it a good sign that probably he'll be ready to go next week for the Texans. Again, Houston right in the thick of it in the AFC South, as we know. They get Tennessee next week, Indianapolis the week after that. Alex, right now it is a Cleveland Brown 3-point favorite, 40 the total in this one.
Small play on Texans +3, but I also teased them up to 9. The Browns looked really great again the last 2 weeks, right? But they were back in Cleveland. This team is a huge road home split. So the 2 games we saw before that, they lost 29-12 to the Broncos, 36-19 to the Rams. I think the Texans can stay in this one. I mean, they are fighting and trying to keep their playoff hopes alive. Case Keenum did just enough last week, 23 of 36 with 229 yards with a touchdown and 1 interception. I think he'll get even better this week. So points are the Texans. I like it better at 9. So I teased that up.
You know, this is just one of those games for me where we saw Houston last week with Keenum. They looked awful on offense for 3 quarters, but found a way. They found a way. They get the game to overtime. They win it in overtime, 19-16. Thank goodness for them. Fairbairn was back, and it wasn't Amendola kicking for them. And now when Fairbairn made the kick, no problem to win the game. You know, this is just one of those games where I feel like the market has overvalued the Browns just slightly. I think Cleveland should be favored in this game, but I think it should be 1. Now, I understand when you're dealing with these numbers, these short numbers, 3, you're asking for a push more times than not, but I did take the 3 with Houston. I would not be shocked if Houston wins this game outright either. You take Cleveland on the road. We've talked about this. Their home road splits defensively are jarring. They're as good as anyone in the NFL at home on defense. On the road, they're still okay, but you look at the point totals and the yards per play. I mean, you gave up 38 on the road to Indianapolis. Obviously, we know the Colts like playing overs, but that's a little much. Seattle, they gave up that game-winning touchdown at the end on the big drive, Geno to Jackson Smith and Jigba on that one. 31 to Baltimore, 29 to Denver. Turnovers, I know, played a big role in that game, but still, high point total, 36 to the Rams. Again, turnovers played a role there, but still 36 points, a lot of points. Now, I'm not saying Houston's the team that's going to be able to put up points in their current form with no Tank Dell and, of course, Stroud being out again. But this feels like we've overvalued Cleveland off of the last few weeks with how well Flacco's played. I also think this total's too high at 40, even though Cleveland has put up a ton of points, averaging over 35 a game against the AFC South. So we're gonna stay. We're gonna go with Houston plus the 3 for me. Nothing else here in this one.
You know what I'm most impressed with this Houston team is how they have utilized Devin Singletary.
Oh, yeah.
We saw him the last few years in Buffalo and really didn't do much. And now he had 121 yards last week on 26 carries, and he's averaging 5 yards a carry in his last 6 games. You talking about defense, too. Houston's defense been much better at home. They've held opponents to an average of 19 points a game. So both on the same side here with the Texans.
Let's go to Tennessee and Seattle. Seahawks 3-point favorites, total 42 on this one. Geno Smith back in the fold. Ryan Tannehill, more likely than not, not more likely than not, is going to be the starter today for the Tennessee Titans. Again, all I'll say here with this game is Tennessee is a good home dog. They're very bad, like last week, put into the home favored role. They lost the game outright. Forget covering. This week, getting 3 against Seattle, where, again, I want to see Geno be healthy. I need to see that he's 100% before even looking at Seattle. But this is a tricky spot for the Seahawks. Off that dramatic Monday night win, right back into the playoff chase. They went out. They're more likely than not getting into the NFC playoffs. Alex, I would only take the 3 with the Titans. I also think I looked at the over in this game at 42. I don't like how Seattle's defense travels. Tennessee, defense is you bend but don't break. But I don't mind going over to 42 in that one. I know the number's gone down through the week.
So nothing for me in this game. The Titans really have nothing to play for but pride. I do think Tannehill will look better again, getting his starting spot back, but 4 defensive players out for Tennessee, 4 questionable on the offensive side. And you're right, it's just a weird spot for Seattle coming off that big win over the Cowboys. So I passed on this one. Thought the number was right.
Tennessee, again, eliminated from playoff contention right now in the NFC playoff standings. Seattle, 7-7. If the playoffs started today for the Seattle Seahawks, you would be looking at them in right now. They would be in because of the virtue of the fact that there are only 3 teams at 7-7 or better right now. They do have problems tiebreaker-wise. The Rams swept them this year. If there's a tie with those teams in the North, they would be behind. So actually, technically, Minnesota entering the day. Granted, Seattle wins, Minnesota wins. Seattle would take that lead over, but it is a difficult spot here again for Seattle. I would be a little bit concerned about this being like, hey, they're much better, slam dunk. It's only 3 for a reason, and also again going on the road, very very difficult, regardless of who you're playing. All right. I'll be quick on this game. There are two games today that are bad games. 2 games that might as well be preseason games today. I know Chicago's technically still alive in the NFC playoff picture, but let's be realistic here. This game, both of these teams are eliminated. The Jets hosting the Washington Commanders. Defense 32 against offense 32. We just learned a few moments ago, Brian Costello of the New York Post, with an interview with Woody Johnson, just came alive that the regime for the Jets will be back in 2024. Both Joe Douglas and Robert Saleh will be retained. So it's not even a coaching for job circumstance anymore now for the Jets. 4th quarterback of the year, Trevor Siemian, will go. There was some question of who would play quarterback for Washington. It will be Sam Howell. 37 total. The Jets, with their 4th quarterback, are 3-point favorites in this game, which I think all you need to know about Washington is that number right there.
I think we knew that about the coaches, right? Aaron Rodgers went there to play for them.
We assumed, I think the way that this season has played out, I think I put a little doubt into it.
Yeah.
I personally think it's a mistake to bring everyone back, but I'm not the one writing the checks here.
So I was looking at the under in this game. I mean, the Commanders, they found a little life with Jacoby Brissett coming in last week, but they're going back to Sam Howell. So I would only look at the under with these two in this quarterback matchup. Plus, the Jets defense continues to show up and do their job. But I think I'm going to wait, maybe do it in-game here. If the Jets are actually moving the ball, I might jump on them for the second half because their defense, they're the second best in the league, holding teams to just 7.6 points in the second half. So maybe they can get enough just to cover in that second half there. Or if they aren't moving the ball, maybe I can jump on the over for the second half. Jump on the under in the second half between the two of them.
You don't know what the motivation is going to be both sides here. Ron Rivera's done. We know this. Ron Rivera's gone. We know that with the new ownership in Washington, they're going to hire a new GM. We already know that's coming at some point. They're going to fire Rivera. It's just going to be a matter of who the coach is. The big question is, does this even matter for Sam Howell? Where I know that may sound weird, but at least for in Washington, if the new GM doesn't like Sam Howell, they're either going to bring Brissett back and let Brissett be the starter next year, or they're just going to start over. If they lose this game today, if Washington loses out, okay, and they will be favored to lose out the rest of the way, the Washington Commanders will be picking no worse than 4th in this upcoming NFL draft. They could very easily, with a win by either, actually, based off the way of this, with a win by either New England or Arizona the rest of the way, because of strength of schedule, Washington, more likely than not, will actually be able to have a chance to hop either of those teams, because right now, Arizona with a 562 strength of schedule, New England with a 523, Washington at 517. If it's a tie, they go on strength of schedule. The weakest strength of schedule will get the best draft pick, because that technically was the worst team based off the NFL's theory. But if you're Washington, losing out for both of these teams, honestly, losing out behooves you with this draft position. For Washington, if you're picking in the top 2, you're almost assuredly ending up with one of those quarterbacks, which could be a North Carolina guy replacing a North Carolina guy with Drake May potentially coming into Washington now.
Very interesting. In Washington's next 2 matchups, they've got the Niners and the Cowboys.
Oh,
so
that Niner! I'm sure the Niners will take it easy in that game, Alex. It's the NFL. We saw last night too. Like, anything can happen. Like, the Chargers had a real shot to win that game last night. They had a real shot. Buffalo finds a way, 24-22. No sweat whatsoever if he had the underdog last night.
Right.
You had no doubt. The only time he had a sliver of doubt was when it was 14-10 at halftime. It was like, is this going to turn into one of those 35-10 games? But Chargers, I got to give the peanut butter man a big credit for having a team ready to go last night in Jeff Smith last night. But regardless, for Washington, San Francisco. San Francisco could legitimately score a touchdown at every possession in that game if they wanted to next week against Washington. The last of the 10 a.m. games, our guy Vinny Magliulo is coming in a few minutes to go through the rest of the card. Again, a lot of games on Monday, 3 games on Monday here today. Minnesota and Detroit. Lions are down to 2.5-point favorites, Alex. The Detroit Lions with a chance to clinch a division title for the first time in 30 years. It would be the first time they win the NFC North. Remember, realignment came early 2000s when the Houston Texans came in the league. So their last division title was the good old NFC Central. Rest in peace on that division. But, Alex, so there's some weird scheduling quirks here going on in this game now. Minnesota and Detroit play each other two of the last 3 weeks. There's also, with the way that the playoff standings work, there is a realistic shot that Detroit could play Minnesota 3 times in 4 weeks. Where, it would be, obviously, Minnesota would have to handle their own business, and that's no gimme, because they're going to be an underdog. They're going to be an underdog this week. If Detroit needs a game, they're going to be an underdog week 18. They'll be a small favorite next week at home against Green Bay. This is 2.5. I don't want anything to do with this. At 3, I'm good. I was good on Minnesota. Now that we're below 3, no chance. Nothing on this. That total of 47.5 is interesting. I don't know if I can get all the way there on betting a total over here, especially when I could have had 47, 46.5 earlier in the week. But I would only look at the over. I don't want to bet an under in this game. Indoor game, remember, so we know Detroit, totally different team indoors.
That's funny you say that because I actually like the first half under.
Okay.
I went under 23.5 because I think Minnesota's defense is very underrated. They're a top 5 run defense, holding teams to 92 yards a game and just 70 at home. Second best team in points allowed in the first half, just 7.7 on the season. The Ravens are the only team better. Detroit is the 10th best team, holding teams to an average of 10 in the first half. So we saw this with the Vikings, right? 0-0 against the Raiders, 3-3 against the Bears. There it is. And then we saw the Lions defense shut out the Broncos last week in the first half. So I think this is going to be a defensive battle. But you're right. I couldn't get there going under on the full game. I think eventually these offenses are going to put some points up on the board. But I like that first half under 23.5.
And here's the one thing with Minnesota, too. I have no idea what we're getting out of Mullins. Because last week we saw some good from Nick Mullins. We saw some absurdly bad from Nick Mullins in that game. He threw for over 300 yards. He threw 2 of the more ridiculous interceptions. The second one, the one that he threw to the defensive tackle, was laying on the ground. Probably the worst interception we've ever seen. And if a higher profile guy did it, and if it happened on a Sunday and not a Saturday, we'd be talking about that one forever in the way we talk about the butt fumble. Again, he played well other than those 2 horrible throws. Justin Jefferson's finally fully healthy again. This is such a weird handicap. Like at 3, I get the take of Minnesota, but you can't do it now. You even lost a couple cents on the money line, too. So it's kind of one of those where maybe Detroit goes down, scores a touchdown on the opening drive, come back with a Minnesota in-game number at a better number. That was what it was on the pre-flop number.
I like that as well.
That would be the only way I'd even look at that one. By the way, before we welcome Vinny, and just circling back to yesterday real quick, because the clock struck midnight for Jake Browning, which we figured was coming at some point. Now, I didn't expect it to come in as spectacular fashion as it did yesterday.
I definitely did not.
The one thing, probably in retrospect, we probably should have seen it coming because that Pittsburgh defense forces a lot of turnovers. 3 interceptions yesterday, really struggled. I know he threw for over 300 yards, but Cincinnati, I think, ran the ball 3 times in the second half because of how far back they were. And for Pittsburgh, Mason Rudolph looked genuinely good. Now, granted, the first touchdown was all George Pickens. It was all him. It was the 6-yard slant pattern and turned into an 89-yard touchdown. And then the second one, I mean, Pickens, after really just getting destroyed in the media the whole week, 4 catches, 195, 2 touchdowns. And for the Steelers, we've been waiting for that Tomlin spot for a few weeks now. We thought it was coming last week against Indianapolis. It comes here. Steelers, again, need some help, but they're not done yet. They'll be a dog in these last 2 games. One more win, and Mike Tomlin, we can continue. Hey, he's never gone under 500 yet again. But it's just, actually, in all honesty, the best way to tell if the Steelers are going to win or lose, our guy Sean, by the way, Sean the chef, as we said earlier in the week, cooked us all, baked us all these unbelievable Christmas treats that
we still got a few over there.
That's for our guy, Matt Neverett.
Okay.
They've been waiting out for our guy, Matt Neverett, who had the week off this week here at the studio. But those treats were so good, they didn't even last 24 hours in my house. I know that, Alex. But Sean, and I'm just quoting you this morning, whenever Sean bets on the Steelers, they lose. Whenever Sean bets against the Steelers, they win. So we'll be waiting with bated breath next Sunday what Sean does on that Steelers-Seahawks game, which kind of makes me think that Sean will probably not bet the game now just to spite me because I said that on the air now. That's probably what will happen. All right, we're going to take a break. When we get back, our guy Vinny Magliulo in studio. The laptop's here. Back with more Sports by the Book here on Christmas Eve.
We have 11 amazing restaurants featuring a wide variety for every price range and appetite. South Point's Garden Buffet has something for everyone at unbeatable prices. Or, if hunger strikes in the middle of the night, join us at Coronado Cafe. The American menu offers breakfast, lunch, or dinner 24 hours a day, plus a Chinese kitchen for authentic Chinese dishes from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. From steak and eggs to wonton soup, it's fast and friendly service 24/7. When you need a quick pick-me-up, you can find it at our state-of-the-art Starbucks just inside the main South Point entrance. Order ahead with the Starbucks app for easy mobile order pickups. Or enjoy your favorites in the relaxing dining area anytime, day or night. If you love Mexican food, Baja Miguel's has all of your south-of-the-border favorites. There are dozens of classics to choose from, like fajitas, ceviche, chimichangas, tacos, and more. And for spirit lovers, Baja's colorful non-smoking tequila bar is right outside. Or maybe you're in the mood for seafood. Big Sur Oyster Bar has fresh seafood prepared right before your eyes. Savor freshly shucked oysters, crab legs jambalaya, shrimp and lobster. Beers on tap and a selection of fine wines are perfect to pair with your seafood favorite. Whether lunch or dinner, you'll love this fun atmosphere, located just off the casino floor. Ready to shake things up? Step back in time and treat yourself to one of the oldest restaurant chains in the country. Steak and Shake, famous for original mouth-watering steak burgers and hand-dipped milkshakes in a variety of flavors. For some old-fashioned fun, try Steak and Shake.
Welcome back in. Merry Christmas Eve, everyone. I'm Jeff Parles. Alex White's here, and joining us now with his laptop in front of him.
There it is. Old school laptop.
8,000 sheets of paper. Our guy, Vinny Magliulo. Merry Christmas, first off.
Merry Christmas, Jeff, Alex, crew, and who's back there?
Sean's back
Sean's back there.
Yeah.
Can't see him behind the
Hey,
column. But
I was going to say, Sean, you should be able to see Sean. He's a tall guy there.
That's
man.
right.
no, now I see him.
Yeah.
He's behind the camera. Yeah, by the way, this is all recycled paper, so I don't think I'm
good.
killing trees.
Good.
And there are, as Alex can tell, just penciled on there, too. Just to really go old school. Merry Christmas, and good to be with both.
Yeah, it's good to have you in. Right. I just want to start. I'm going to take a quick detour real quick. Because I was at both the Las Vegas Bowl. By the way, awful football game last night.
Oh.
Congratulations to Northwestern for winning the game. But
Grinder.
Yeah.
A grinder.
Honestly, Northwestern should have won the game 31-7, quite frankly. They gave up a lot of opportunities, a lot of fourth and inches punting last night.
Yeah.
Regardless. But I was at the Florida Atlantic Arizona game yesterday.
Heck of a game.
Pretty nice break.
Right.
One of the best games of the college basketball season so far. One quick observation yesterday where Arizona, you and I both had number one power rated going into yesterday.
Yeah. And by the way, if they were to play today, Arizona would still be favored.
Of course.
Even though they lost yesterday.
They would probably.
Now, we had talked yesterday. Remember, you said I'd like to get 8, and I said, "Isn't 6.5 enough?" I mean,
well, you know what I ended up doing? I ended up taking Florida Atlantic money line.
Very good.
Yesterday. So we ended up being okay on that yesterday.
So my other price was pretty accurate. That the likelihood of you being there and being in action was.
Well, you know what I ended up doing yesterday, Vinny? You were right. Laid the yes on the action in both games. I just took both underdogs in both games.
Good for you.
Winners, so
good for you, buddy.
See, not thinking at all and placing a bet actually is
Merry Christmas.
Now.
There you go.
Exactly. Merry Christmas.
You give yourself a Christmas gift.
But I just want to say
go ahead.
real quick.
Cheers.
Where talent-wise, I don't know if there's a team in America that's more talented than Arizona. But after watching them yesterday, the way that they played down the stretch, and I know North Carolina nearly won a national championship playing this way 2 years ago, but you live and die by Caleb.
Yes,
where
they've turned
even though he made 2 big threes at the end of regulation and overtime yesterday, even though they lost, the shot decision making is not there. And unlike with Hubert Davis, who there are questions about Hubert Davis' coaching ability. I thought that at least in that run, Love's shot selection was better than what it was yesterday. Tommy Lloyd didn't even attempt to coach in that game. And that's alarming to me moving forward. And we saw it 2 years ago in the NCAA tournament where Houston destroyed them in the Sweet 16. We know Kelvin Sampson's an elite coach.
Very
and then
good.
last year, where I know Princeton made the Sweet 16, that's a game Arizona should never lose, especially with Princeton shooting the way they did in that game.
coaching is extremely important. I mean, I don't want to overemphasize it, except you have to in the college game. So to your point, I saw that myself. I thought that you hope that as the season moves on, that Tommy Lloyd takes something away from not only yesterday, but to the two experiences in the NCAA tournament the last couple of years that you referred to. Not so sure that's going to happen, Jeff. You saw a Florida Atlantic team yesterday that's got multiple shooters. I mean, they've got a good game. That's a good team. It's a together team. They've been together now for a couple seasons, and they play very well. We talked about that yesterday. Not going to anoint them just yet as number one, but are they a top 10 tier team? Are they capable? Absolutely. Look at the run they made a year ago, and now they're even better.
Yeah.
The thing about Arizona is they're going to have to make other people get involved at critical times, and they've got players to do that. Johnson, a kid from San Diego State that transferred, who went to the title game. I think it's Johnson, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you look at that. They were passing up opportunities to take shots, and I get Love made some critical shots, and he's a terrific player, but sometimes it's a little out of control. And I also thought that down the stretch they had some critical turnovers. Credit Florida Atlantic for that, particularly when they had the advantage on the inside and didn't utilize it. So
just didn't use ball at all.
That's the coaching element that you're referring to. So unless they adjust that, your point is certainly gonna show itself.
And look, I thought that way about Scott Drew. Of course, he ended up winning a national championship a few years ago. But again, credit to Florida Atlantic. John L. Davis was so
Terrific.
good in that game yesterday. And
Great.
And for people who said, we overrated the Owls because they made the run last year, and if they lose to Memphis, then we think about them as maybe a borderline top 20. No. That's a legitimate top 10 team there with the right draw in March. They're capable of being right in the same spot they were a year ago, which was a buzzer beater away from being in a national title game against Connecticut last.
No, they're legit, and they can make shots, and multiple people can make shots too. Yeah. And the way they share the basketball shows you that they've got confidence in each other.
Let's go to today.
Yeah.
I want to go to Jacksonville and Tampa here because this has been a big mover throughout the last 24 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Looks like Trevor Lawrence is going to play.
He's cleared.
He's cleared. He traveled yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
It's now flipped to Jacksonville as a 1-point favorite. This has been as high as Tampa 3.
Yeah.
When it looked like Lawrence wasn't going to play.
Earlier in the week.
43.
Mm-hmm.
Vinny, I still like the Bucs. I still like Tampa in this game.
Much healthier too,
yeah.
Right? When you look at it, and again, is Baker Mayfield going to have the same kind of game as he did a week ago at Green Bay? I think that'd be difficult. I mean, he had a perfect quarterback rating last week, but the fact of the matter is he's a warrior. We've talked quite a bit about veteran quarterbacks coming in and helping teams. This is a veteran roster too. So now the other thing is, I realize, and Trevor Lawrence, give him credit. I mean, whether a month ago it was the ankle, a couple of weeks ago it was the knee, and the last couple of weeks it's been concussion protocol. Give this young man credit for battling, right, Alex? I mean, he's showed up and he's there, but they have they've got a lot of injuries, particularly at the wide receiver position.
So I'm not doing anything with this game yet. I'm going to wait on it. I want to see if I can get a better total to go over it, so maybe even in the second half. But looking at the numbers, Jags are third best first half, holding teams to an average of 8 points in the first half. We've also seen their offense kind of start slow this year, but then they're sixth in second half points, averaging 12.4. But their defense is defensively in the second half, they are dead last, giving up the most points in the second half. So I'm going to kind of wait on this, which that could actually go to your point with the Bucs here, Jeff, waiting on them and maybe getting more points.
Yeah, again, could Jacksonville find it today where they haven't found it in the last month? Yeah, it's possible.
Maybe.
Absolutely.
They're more than capable. That is again,
Right.
that's sports betting for you.
Yeah, that's.
So,
By the way, total 43.
Yeah.
I mean, it
how
opened
much did that go up? when Lawrence
43.
goes?
Well, it was as low as 41,
Not
41 and a
too-
half. So a couple of points.
That's actually a little
this year.
surprising that it didn't go up.
But
almost that whole.
It's
field
actually.
goal.
I'm starting to see some 42 and a halves out
Yeah,
there
so-
and stuff. So
Well, actually, that Tampa again. We talked about this in the north today. The weather is unseasonably warm today in the north.
Mm-hmm.
Tampa, it's always warm. It's 71 degrees
Nice.
here on Christmas Eve. So
Mhm.
no, and about 12-mile-an-hour winds. So
Weather's
on
good.
the border potentially being an impact for that one with the Floridian teams the day before Christmas. Another Floridian game here, Miami and Dallas.
Yeah.
We talked about this on Friday, Vinny. It's 1 now. Miami laying it 48 the total. Again, we've talked about this, and Alex, I'm curious your thoughts on this game as well. Dallas, go beat a good team on the road. Miami, go beat a good team anywhere.
Anywhere.
Yeah, that's what this one comes down to today.
And money showed for the Cowboys. I was just talking about this and a few other games with Chris Andrews, director here at South Point. And you know what? Yeah, there's a bit more Cowboy money right to this. But listen, I think we get to it. A 125 kickoff here locally. There'll be Dolphin money here. This will be one of the more popular bet games here. Tyreek Hill looks like he's going to go for the Dolphins, but they still have those offensive line injuries. So it remains to be seen just how what adjustments they make. Cowboys did what everybody expected them to do, to make a statement a couple of weeks ago against Philadelphia at home, and then look what happened last week. So it's going to. We'll see what kind of both of these teams. Look, they're both playoff position, but do they need it from maybe a psychological and a positioning standpoint? Certainly. So, but I think we're going to see. The other thing I think we'll see here is I think this total will start to tick up. Don't forget, it opened at 51. It got a low of 48. I think as we get further into this morning and afternoon, we'll see some over money.
I would assume so too. I went over 24.5 for the first half,
First half?
with these two top defenses. Dallas averaging 18.5 points in their first halves this season. Miami 17.5, and they've had 21 in their last 3. I would lean to Dallas here sidewise, but I haven't made a bet yet. My only concern is they play a lot of man-to-man. I want to see what adjustments they make because we know Tyreek Hill can outrun anyone. But
And I think if you're gonna play Dallas, you're probably going to bet them on the money line, and lay
I mean,
Yeah.
lay $1.05 or
play-
take even money if you can find even money somewhere rather than lay
Yeah,
10 cents. I mean,
just-
if you like them, it's a pick 'em game.
Yeah.
So
I would be surprised if this land of Miami won. There are a few factors in this game. I do like Dallas, but I don't think I'm going to bet them. There's 2 reasons for that. They got annihilated on the ground last week. Buffalo ran all over
yeah,
them. And I know Miami has offensive line issues, but that zone rushing attack that they have is very difficult to defend. Now, last week, Buffalo kind of ground and pounded them to death more than anything. But I'm curious to see how Dallas handles that zone running attack. And Mostert has looked really good so far this year.
Mostert and Ashawn is
going
back
to
as
play. it
well.
looks
Yeah.
like. Yep.
Mhm.
Tyreek Hill's back,
Yes.
Yeah.
so they can loosen it up.
Mhm.
That I know Deron Bland has the record for most pick sixes in a year. But him and I know Diggs has been out for the whole year, but him and Diggs are very similar corners. They're going to make a lot of great plays like interceptions, but they're also going to bust as well. And if you're going to bust against Miami, you're going to give up 70-yard touchdowns. You're going to give up 45-yard plays.
Yeah.
So I know this total's been bet down. I like this total over now.
Well, I think it's going to come up.
Now,
Yeah,
I
do.
mean, we're sitting at
We're gonna
48.
see some
We're at
over
51
money.
on a week ago.
Mhm.
In the high 40s, I like this thing over. I know that's probably going to be a square play by the end of the day, but I do like this thing over 48 because I expect Dallas to move the ball. Miami's defense looked like the 85 Bears because the Jets are the Jets last week.
Mm.
I expect this to be a game that both teams are in the mid to high 20s, which gets us over.
I think also neither of these teams minds being in a shootout.
Right.
Can't blame that.
Right? Because they can both score.
But that's a very good point. Now that it has moved down so much, I made it 53.5, so that's some value there on that
You have 5
full game
points,
over.
right? 5.5
yeah.
I think
points
that's a
going
play
for you,
then.
So.
Yeah.
And as we speak, they're starting to see some.
The hooks
48 and a half.
The hooks are starting to reappear in some spot. One of the two fully meaningless games here today, Arizona and Chicago. Vinny, yeah, I know the Bears are technically alive, but let's be real with ourselves here. Chicago's 4, total's 42. There's potential for fog here in this game, Vinny.
I remember a game in Soldier Field.
Playoff game, right?
It was against the Eagles that people literally asked us what's wrong with our TVs. I was at Caesars, and because you could not see the field. I mean, it was. You remember that game? Randall Cunningham.
I wasn't alive, but I know about it.
I
I've
wasn't
seen the
alive
video.
again. There's the reference.
Yeah.
There it is. Thank you. You were there, Ann. Okay, thank you.
That was what,
Somebody else was alive
That was
besides Chris, Jimmy, and I during a game.
That was December 30. That was New Year's Eve, 1988.
Yeah.
That game.
Right. New Year's Eve. So, I think it was a playoff game, right?
Yeah, 20-12
Playoff.
was the final. Yes.
So, yeah, you talk about weather. Well, fog is it's an interesting is an anomaly that we don't oftentimes have to deal with. But yeah, it's a factor. This game did open 4.5. They took the 4.5 with the Cardinals. Meaningless in terms of the standings for sure, Jeff. But the other part is here. You've got incentive on the part of players. Well, let's look at the Bears, right? The Bears really, because of their draft position this year, right? And the way they structured trades and did some things, they have the number 1 pick this year.
Yes, they have Carolina's pick, which is number 1.
Okay.
Yes.
So their decision is in a quarterback-rich draft, at least rich in terms of
all the top two,
the ones coming out,
yeah.
Number of quarterbacks coming out. They've got a decision to make, and Justin Fields knows this. And really, he's played better in the last month. And so, from an incentive standpoint, and again, a lot of players are playing for their jobs. Look at last night, the Chargers, who were abysmal 10 days ago here. All right, literally, many of them quit. Well, if you're going to quit, you're not going to get paid. And you saw a response last night by them. They lost the game, but what a much different effort on the part of those players.
Very easily could have won the game last.
So they could have, right? They could have really
ended
ended Buffalo's season pretty much, or just about put them really behind the 8 ball. But and again, credit the Bills for finding a way. But getting back to the Cardinals and Bears, both of these teams, what's going to happen with Kyler Murray? And let's face it, no team has drafted more quarterbacks in the last decade.
Last 10 years,
right?
Last 7 years,
right?
Honestly.
Than the Cardinals. So there's a lot at stake here. Now, how does that come into play with the handicap? Well, the number's there. And again, they took 4.5. There's something for somebody to find. Alex?
Yeah, I think the number's right. I mean, you're right. Justin Fields has played very well, and their defense has done really good.
Yeah.
I just don't know. We've talked about Arizona, too. I mean, they've been scrappy all year long. So
I thought the number was right for what it's worth.
Mm-hmm.
I know that some people will be like, "Oh, how are the Bears favored by this much against anyone?" But I think that number's fair. If the weather was not, if there wasn't this potential for the fog, I actually like this game over.
Agreed.
I know Chicago's defense has been much better since Eberflus has taken the play calling over, but Arizona with Kyler Murray has just looked like an ordinary, mediocre team, which, again, we're talking about a team that we thought was going to be as bad as anyone ever going into the year, and they've just been your boilerplate 3rd or 4th worst team in the NFL, which is pretty good. And you're right, Vinny. These are two teams right now. Chicago has the 1st pick and the 6th pick.
Mm-hmm.
Arizona's number 3.
Yeah.
Right now. And they also have Houston's pick, which is going to be a lot lower than I think anyone expected going into this year. There are a lot of people. There are both. With the reports out of Phoenix, if feels like they're going to stay with Kyler Murray moving forward. That's what the feeling is
I
right
think
now.
I think
It's
the
contract
money that
plays
has a lot to do with it
contract
too.
plays a
They
big
may not
role
have a
in that.
choice.
Yeah, the contract plays a big role in that.
Yeah.
But we knew this conversation was going on with Fields the whole year.
Mm-hmm.
We know that Fields has been playing for his job if the Bears are going to be picking high enough in this upcoming draft.
Mm-hmm.
And the Bears are going to be picking high enough because of Carolina.
That's right.
And it is a very difficult choice here for this front office moving forward. Even if Fields plays well the last 3 weeks, it's still a tough choice.
Sure.
Because at this point, it's not just, hey, we're not going to take the quarterback and we're going to bring back Fields. No. It's not just that. It's you're picking up the fifth-year option. You're not only picking up the fifth-year option, you're probably giving him $150, $175 million to be your quarterback moving forward.
Yeah.
So that's a huge, huge deal for Chicago instead of starting the clock over again with a rookie quarterback on a rookie contract.
And if you're Fields, you're looking at it saying, well, if I'm going to be somewhere else, I have to showcase some talent so I can get aforementioned contract.
I feel pretty confident in saying that Justin Fields will be a starter in the league week 1 next year somewhere. I don't know if it will be Chicago. I don't know if it will be somewhere else. But him being a starter week 1 next year, I would be surprised if he is not.
Yeah, especially if he continues the play for today and the next couple of games. If he continues the way he's played this last month, I think you're spot on.
There are two spots that make a lot of sense to me. They both wear black. One of them is just north of us here, and the other one's in the southeast. Would make a whole lot of sense for me with Justin Fields.
So the Raiders
and the Falcons.
And the Falcons?
The Falcons.
Yeah, Falcons.
Wow.
Maybe
Depends on now. I assume if Atlanta misses the playoffs, I think they're both going to be hiring new coaches.
Oh yeah.
We know the Raiders are already going to be, so it's going to depend on who they bring in behind them.
Well, the Steelers have to.
Yeah, I don't know what. I'll be
right?
I'll be totally honest with you. I have no idea what's going to happen with Pittsburgh this offseason because Tomlin could be out.
Sure.
There's been rumblings that teams may try to trade for Tomlin this offseason, which would make a lot of sense.
Sure.
And if that's the case, who knows what they do at quarterback moving forward? They might be committed to Pickett for one more year, and then that's it after 3 years if it's not good enough.
Yeah,
So,
maybe.
we'll see.
A lot of
Yesterday kind of switched that narrative a little, though.
All I'm gonna say is we've seen enough of Mason Rudolph to know that Mason Rudolph is not the guy for more than 1 week. I know
Not for him. I meant for Tomlin.
I know what you meant. I know what you meant. Let's go to the late game. Vinny, it's up to 7.5 behind us.
Yes, it is.
Only 7.5 in the market. It's
right
mostly,
here at South Point.
It's mostly 7 minus 120 on the favorite in most spots.
Mm-hmm.
I like the Patriots.
I was going to say, that means we're going to have two-way action.
I like the Patriots, especially if you're going to give me the hook.
Alex, you like the Broncos?
I do. I laid the 6.5, though.
You know I love when there's two-way action at the desk.
Here's the deal, though, Vinny. I know the sentence will make you cringe, but if it lands Denver 7, we'll have 2 winners on the desk, and you'll be paying both of us.
Why do you insist? Why do you insist on now you want a stocking stuffer, right? You had the 2 winners yesterday, both dogs yesterday, and now you want a stocking stuffer. Okay, go ahead. That's fine. That's fine. No, it's this game here open 5.5. I mean, it's been a steady stream of Broncos all week. Again, still plenty of injuries. With the Patriots, and now wide receiver injuries came out this morning, I think, with the inactives. So, but look, this Bronco team is fighting for their playoff life, and I think that's what's driving a lot of folks to the Broncos side here. So, Alex, I'm sure you laid less than 7. I'm very confident about that. So.
I did. And I think last week was just a really bad spot for the Broncos. It was their third road game going to Detroit. So I didn't want to take too much from that. I made the Broncos about a 9-point favorite here at home against the Patriots. So I laid the 6.5. Okay. Bounce back spot for them. They are 6-2 straight up in their last 8 games. So I'm expecting a big one from them. Zappy kind of came back down.
Hey, look, the Patriots are awful. I get that. I like I said on Friday's show, I am very concerned about what that relationship between Sean Payton and Russell Wilson is.
Oh, no
doubt. That's my concern. And if that contract was not completely unmovable, I would feel pretty confident in saying that it would be a different, even though Wilson is been okay this year. It does feel like, especially after that outburst by Payton on the sidelines last Saturday, that Sean Payton can't stand his quarterback. So, again, that contract's unmovable. He's going to be there barring something shocking next year.
So Sean Payton coach it. I mean,
Well,
that's
what
you got the
Sean
money
Payton's
too.
going nowhere.
Listen, he got a nice contract too, right? Figure out a way.
All right, before we let you go back to work, just putting the 3 Christmas games together before Alex and I break them down before we get out of here.
Okay.
Today. 10.5 on Kansas City.
Yep, open 10 and up to 10.5.
13.5 on Philadelphia now.
And climbing.
Yeah, we're going to get 14
Probably.
before that game kicks.
Probably.
And then San Francisco at 6 against Baltimore.
Yeah, we actually did touch 6.5 yesterday. But, I mean, listen, when you look at this board, certainly the Cowboys-Dolphins is a real marquee game and a popular game. But the Ravens-Niners is the game everybody wants to see. Is it a Super Bowl preview as it's being hyped? Well, maybe. They've still got a long way to go, both teams. But certainly the top 2 seeds right now. And you just hope that it's a great game and both teams come out of it healthy and get finish the season and then get to the postseason. But great betting game and look at that. Look at the time slot tomorrow night, 5:15.
Are people betting it already, or?
Oh yeah, they're betting tomorrow. They're tying in every game. I mean, Thursday night, you had of course the game, and then 2 games yesterday. Which, again, it's just the way it layers is really great.
That Niner Raven game, Vinny.
Yeah.
Do you think the handle will be impacted because it's Christmas night in comparison to a different, like, let's say this was like 3 weeks ago.
Let's say it's
Monday
New
night.
Year's, or even let's say it's a week from now,
Yeah.
right? I mean, because it's going to be a huge. I don't think so, Jeff, because and again, do we have the typical crowd here right now? It's a little bit lighter, but again, what people have done is they made their bets yesterday, they made their bets last night. But the same thing today. But by the time this game gets here, remember on Thanksgiving how we talked about how it's a little quiet in the morning, and then that second game, everybody starts, filtering in. And then by the evening, everybody's, all right, Mom and Grandma are throwing everybody out of the house to get a break, So, go over to the South Point, get out of here. I want, and so this place will be very busy tomorrow night. That game will be, just by virtue of its A, position, and B, the matchup, will be the highest bet game of the weekend. So I don't think, would it do more if it was a week from now? Yes, but it's certainly going to live up to its billing from a betting standpoint.
Vinny, we'll let you go back to work.
I'm going.
Merry
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas, Vinny.
And thanks to our crew, both of you, Frank, Nicotero, and certainly everybody for tuning in out there. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Yeah. We're almost to 1,000 on the YouTube subscribers. Please, if you're watching us right now, click that subscribe button. It's free.
Get us to 1,000.
Yeah, that's all we want for Christmas.
There may or may not be something fun coming when we get to 1,000. May or may not.
Oh, there'll be something fun.
There'll be something. I don't know what, but we'll see. Vinny, thank you as always.
Thank you,
Merry
Vinny.
Christmas.
All right, Alex, before we get out of here today, let's look at those 3 Monday games. 5 minutes for these, and we won't be on tomorrow, so this will be our preview real quick. I don't have anything on the first game. Kansas City now at 10.5. I don't want to come back on the Raiders. I don't even want to say yes. Last week was the get right spot for Kansas City, even though they covered all the early numbers. It wasn't an impressive showing in that game. They won the game by 10. They probably should have won the game by 24 with how it played out after the early goings. I'm still waiting for that. We saw it a few weeks ago here where they got in the 14-0 hole and then smashed the Raiders the rest of the game. But I'm still waiting for that, hey, we're right game from Kansas City. I feel like it may come tomorrow, but I'm not laying north of 10 when I could have laid a better number.
See, and I'm looking at the Raiders here a little bit, but I would probably play them more in the first half. They do play the Chiefs tough, but they just cannot hang in the whole game with them. I'm going with Rashee Rice over 67.5 receiving yards again, though. I'm going to keep playing this until it gets too high, but he's done it in 4 straight, averaging 83.5 in those 4 games. So he's Patrick Mahomes' favorite target right now, and people are still betting Kelsey, but we haven't really seen that production, so you got to find a different target. So that's my best play in that game, but I may jump in a little bit on the Raiders. We'll see where that number goes and if I play first half or full game.
Yeah, nothing for me on that one. To the second game. We're going to get for it. Go ahead.
I didn't check the weather in Kansas City either. Are we good there?
And Kansas City, I checked it yesterday. It was not supposed to be anything crazy there in KC. And tomorrow, a little bit of a potential for rain tomorrow.
Okay.
Yeah, nothing wet. 55 degrees, potential for rain, but it's less than 20%. So the rain's there today.
The total's a little low, but
Philadelphia and the Giants up to 13.5. I'm not bothering here. Missed a number on Philadelphia. No interest in betting Tommy DeVito and company for me.
could tease the Eagles down. We've talked about this spot for a while. I mean, now that they lost 3 in a row, Philadelphia, this is the get right spot for them. We saw the Giants already come back down to life here with Tommy DeVito. So I would only play the Eagles here, tease them down, get them under that 7.
And now let's look at the game of the year so
Yes.
far in the NFL. You know, Alex, it's just the first time in the last 30 years that the number 1 seed in the AFC at the time played the number 1 team in the NFC at the time. That happened twice in the same season. It already happened with Philadelphia and Kansas City earlier in the year. Now it's happening here in Week 16 with Baltimore and San Francisco. San Francisco's up to 6. As Vinny said, did touch 6.5. This just shows how good San Francisco is. Baltimore, by basically any power rating at this point, is number 2, at worst number 3. And there are 6 on the road in this game in a place that has a little home field advantage. Nothing crazy there in San Francisco because they're great regardless of where they play. I'm not touching this game on the side. I will say I do think 46.5 is a little low. I know that may come off as odd with the quality of defenses in this game, but San Francisco is scoring on everyone. And I just wonder if this is a game for Baltimore where they really let Lamar throw the football. Because I don't think you're going to get much running against San Francisco. See if Lamar wants to throw the football. I know Ward has been awesome recently in that secondary for San Francisco, but if anything, and I know this will probably go up because it's the last game on a prime time on a holiday, but I don't mind this thing to the over at the 46.5, 46 out there.
I don't mind it either. And I do think that Baltimore will be able to run the ball a little bit on them because teams have with the Niners, but they've kind of masked that by scoring so much, and then teams are passing, trying to catch up. So I don't mind that at all. I actually laid the 5.5 with the Niners, and I know I've been a big pusher of the Ravens, best team in the AFC, and I still think that. But right now, I think this is going to come down to execution, and the Niners are executing better than anyone in the league. We've seen the Ravens. I mean, they really shouldn't have even won that game last week against the Jags.
This is the thing that comes back to me with Baltimore. I don't trust them. And there have been multiple times this year where I've watched them in these quote-unquote big games. The Sunday night game against the Chargers, they should have lost that game if the Chargers just didn't melt. Last week, Jacksonville scoring 0 points in the first half was essentially impossible, and they did. But look, again, they keep winning. They have a great defense. And not only that, they're 11-3. They have led or been tied with 2 minutes to go or less in all 14 games. That is really obviously insane to do. Last team that did that was the 07 Patriots. Pretty good regular season team, Alex. You're in a scenario here where it's tough to look at this Raven team and say what I'm saying, but that's how I feel. That's how I feel about them.
No, I agree with you, and that's why I did lay the points here with San Francisco. But if the Ravens beat me, I won't be too disappointed because I have been talking about them all season long and do have some futures, so that'll just help my case there. But I laid the points with the Niners. I feel pretty confident about it.
All right, that's all the time we have. Everyone out there, for both Alex and I and the whole crew back there today, Sean and Ann back there, Ryan, Jerry, Matt and Everett as well in our great crew, Vinny, Chris, Jimmy. We wish everyone a Merry Christmas. We thank you for watching us throughout the year. We thank you for giving us the time here on these Sundays, these Saturdays, previewing the games. Hoping you can pick up a few things from us through this. We're off tomorrow. Frank Nicotero is back on Tuesday with punchlines at noon Pacific. Our show here on Sports by the Book is back on Thursday at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, getting you ready for the Jets and the Browns. Sorry, guys. Wish we had a better game than that one. Alex, Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
For Alex White, I'm Jeff Parles. We'll see you again on Thursday. Enjoy the holiday, everyone. This has been Sports by the Book.